Here are two Frankenstein riffs, one a bit more subtle than the other, but it's great to see this cautionary tale is still alive and well in the horror genre. This is M.L. Miller Fright's Best in Horror Countdown 2022 through 2023, counting down the best in horror within the window of October 1st, 2022 through September 30th, 2023.
Number 16.
Megan was released on January 6th, 2023. It's streaming on Amazon Prime from Universal Pictures. It's directed by Gerard Johnstone and written by Akela Cooper and James Wan. The Haunting of Hill House's Violet McGraw plays Katie, the sole survivor of a car crash where her parents lost their lives. Her aunt Gemma, played by Get Out's Allison Williams, isn't ready to be a parent, but is thrust into parenthood when Katie arrives. Gemma is busy working at a toy company, attempting to develop the next big thing in robotic toys, with her boss David, played by Ronnie Ching, on her back to get specs done for a new project. Gemma is more interested in a side project she has dubbed Megan, played by Amy Donald and voiced by Jenna Davis, a fully automated friend who imprints on its user and plays the part of a parent. Feeling the stress of being a new parent herself, Gemma uses Megan to help with the added burden of Katie in her life. But the doll works too well, and any threats to Katie is immediately taken care of by Megan in drastic and often deadly ways. While it's become a meme and a TikTok sensation, the Megan movie actually has heavier themes than the surface-level coverage this film has received. While these themes are going to fall upon deaf ears of the younger crowd, it conveys a strong message of how much modern parents rely on things like iPads, computers, and iPhones to raise their children, and the disastrous effects this can have on both the relationship between a parent and a child and the child's psyche itself. Sure, you can guffaw at the weird way Megan dances and the goofy 80s songs she sings to soothe Katie when she's upset, but it turns out this is a smarter film if you choose to look at it a little deeper. This is less of a story about how Katie copes with the loss of her parents as it is a story about how Gemma copes with the loss of her autonomy and accepts her new role as a parent. Allison Williams does a great job of conveying the irresponsible adult Gemma, who collects toys that aren't meant to be played with, is immediately alerted about her Tinder status when she enters her home by her Alexa device, and loves her life where she can spend hours in her home office/lab without a care for anything but herself. This story follows Gemma's path to growing up, something many modern parents simply have no care in doing. And while I doubt many will pay attention to the message that face-to-face interaction between a parent and a child is crucial to growing up, I commend Megan for trying to communicate it. Past that, Megan is basically the recent Child's Play remake without Aubrey Plaza to attract me all the way through. More accurately, if you're as old as me, you might remember a little movie called Deadly Friend by Wes Craven and starring Kristy Swanson. Like Chucky and Swanson's Samantha, Megan is Katie's friend till the end. She kills anyone who poses even the smallest threat to Katie. There's even a scene where the nosy neighbor is taken care of, as well as the school bully. I guess Deadly Friend was due for a remake, and gals might need a female killer doll anti-hero to emulate, but Megan neither tops nor adds to what these films have to offer. Well, I guess that's not true. The modern parenting moral is new, but the rest of the movie is simply Child's Playing with Deadly Friend. The acting is pretty strong, especially from Williams. I found child actor Violet McGraw to be less annoying during the quieter scenes, but she definitely gets a little grating when she's acting angry and out of control. The pair of gals playing Megan physically and vocally work, as there is some smooth yet robotic movements going on and a slight auto-tune to her voice, a combination which highlights the almost human but not quite so feel you get seeing the doll move and talk. Ronnie Ching offers up some very poorly acted scenes as Emma's boss. He's just not believable and seems extremely out of his depth compared to the rest of the cast. While I'm criticizing, there's a very speedy rush to the end with this, as Megan is taken care of pretty quickly in the climax, and more than a few subplots like the lab assistant who steals Megan's blueprints that are never addressed. But that might be intentional so it can lead to the inevitable sequel. and the police are especially dense in this film, overlooking the obvious in order for the plot to proceed. But hell, if that broke a movie, half the films in Hollywood would be in pieces. The dance is bizarre, as is the way Megan runs after her prey in the woods on all fours. There are some fun comic moments throughout involving the strange way Megan fails to cross that uncanny valley and look totally human, but still looks creepily close. A lot of that was revealed, unfortunately, in the trailer. I have to give it up to the film for not holding back on how ruthless Megan is played, but then again, the film is practically bloodless in order to attain that crucial PG-13 rating. Anything scary occurs simply because of that uncanny valley aspect and little else. Everything else is off camera. There's a rumor that a bloody R-rated cut is coming, so if you're a hardcore horror fan, it might be worth your while to wait for that. Otherwise, Megan was harmless horror with a strong central theme. It's great that new horror fans may be born from watching this film, but those of us who are already there won't find too much to cheer about in terms of scares or gore. A sequel has already been greenlit, so be prepared for more of this sinister small wonder. I'm not mad at Megan. It was fluffy horror entertainment, and there's a place for that in cinema right along with the gore, violence, and depravity I'm more attracted to. There's much dumber and much worse horror out there, so I'm giving Megan my recommendation. I liked this one, but didn't love it, mainly because of how it crammed in a lot of social issues in a story whose moral is relevant across the ages, and sort of contradictory to the message it tries to convey. Still, it's a great-looking and impressive debut from a strong director and lead actress. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster was released June 9th, 2023, and it's streaming on Shudder from RLJE Films. It's directed and written by Bomani J. Story. Vicaria, played by Layla DeLeon Hayes, is a brilliant young girl living in an impoverished, mainly African-American neighborhood in Anytown, USA, where gangs, drugs, and death has become a way of life. When her brother Chris, played by Edem Atsu Swansea, is shot by a rival gang, Vicaria decides to take the body before the police arrive and use her smarts to attempt to bring him back to life. But upon bringing Chris back, Vicaria realizes he's not the brother she once knew, but a powerful monster lacking much of the reasoning Chris used to have. But simple urges like revenge is one of the emotions Chris knows well, as those who caused his death begin to feel his wrath. As her family attempts to put their lives back together, little do they know, lurking in the shadows is the shell of the man Chris once was. While one might want to compare this film to Blackenstein, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster is much more of a slice of life for the modern Black American. The opening sequence has Vicaria and her cute-as-a-button niece, Jada, played by Amani Summer, walking through the streets, past gangs, drug deals, and street fights, discussing the periodic table and talking about the importance of going to a school. It's much more like the Black America films of the 90s like Boys in the Hood and Menace to Society than anything like the blaxploitation horror films of the 70s. Director Bomani J. Story depicts the fleeting highs and the all-too-common lows of the life of Vicaria, who struggles in school with teachers who don't even try to pronounce her name correctly, a father, played by Chad L. Coleman, with drug addiction, and crime and death occurring on a nightly basis in her neighborhood. Vicaria is fed up with this as she has the know-how to see that all of this is very wrong, yet feels helpless at what to do to make a change. So Vicaria resorts to seeing her problems as a challenge for her to solve. She sees death as a symptom rather than a final end and sets out to cure this symptom. This isn't unlike Victor Frankenstein's motivations in Shelley's original novel, and what director Story does so well is really dig into the motivations of Vicaria and shows how her environment has shaped these warped goals of conquering that which, as yet, no one has been able to beat, death. It's a lofty goal, but Vicaria is one smart cookie. That doesn't mean she isn't without flaws, and that's what I found refreshing to see in Angry Black Girl. She is stubborn. She might be a bit autistic, as she sees life in a more mechanical way that may be manipulated, not unlike a car engine. But it's this view of life that serves as the spark where this tale ignites from. Story doesn't hold back in showing that while Chris is monstrous in looks and action, he's not the real monster here. Like Victor Frankenstein before her, Vicaria is the real monster in this story. Her persistence to beat death becomes all-encompassing over the notion of what is right and wrong, and I love it that this moral is something Story maintains in his own take on the classic tale. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster is going to be one of those movies where it may have a cast of unknowns, but they won't be unknowns for much longer. Layla DeLeon Hayes is outstanding as Vicaria. Her rage and sorrow are palpable. She's fed up with all of this horror in her life and desperately wants to do something about it. Though she's very young, Hayes carries the entire movie with ease. I also really liked Denzel Whitaker's role as Kango, the gang leader. While much of the performance is full of puffed-up street attitude, Whitaker shows much more depth than I was expecting as the story goes on. Riley Brooks Smith plays Vicaria's pregnant aunt, Aisha, who also acts as someone wise beyond her years. She might be just as smart as Vicaria, but she's more caught up in the world around her and simply accepts things as they are, lacking Vicaria's youthful enthusiasm and drive to do something about it. All of these characters are more than just your typical cardboard cutout urban people you see in cop dramas and cheap movies. The cast feels lived in, and spending time with them is both heartwarming and breaking as this family experiences the highs and lows of their lives. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster is not a perfect film. It's a movie with a sort of message, but nothing is above criticism, no matter how noble that message is. The film definitely sags in the middle. There just seems to be a lull in the excitement somewhere after Chris is reanimated and takes his revenge, and before the bloody and tragic climax. It almost feels like a two-part series squished together the way the film is structured as Chris goes on a bloody rampage, yet the family begins to come together, suggesting a more happy ending. But after that lull, things get really good and gory, so that lag is only momentary. The other problem is that the script kind of fails to see the irony that is right in its face. Throughout the narrative, Vicaria educates her young niece, Jada, about how all of these scientific achievements have been made by black people, but the credit went to white people. While some of that might be true, it just doesn't feel like a black-made movie that literally borrows its story from a white woman should be pointing fingers towards others for lifting ideas. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster is a very strong film and a wonderful debut of not only its lead actress Hayes, but Bomani J Story as a filmmaking powerhouse. I look forward to following both of their careers, and hopefully, Story has other dark stories he can tell in the horror genre. This one occasionally gets preachy, as it indignantly identifies white society as one of the issues facing Black America, but it also spends the bulk of its time showing how Black America does a pretty solid job of being its own worst enemy as well. The stark and vivid examination of the Black experience is much more horrifying than seeing a reanimated monster tearing people apart any old day. But the horror is pervasive throughout, whether it's communicated through bloody effects or sociological themes. The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster is a movie with a message, but it never forgets to be entertaining. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or how about you play along at home and give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown. Be sure to hit all of those pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.